Hi, welcome to the second video of the video series where we talk about economics in a very simpler way. I would like you guys to remember what you're seeing now because the beauty is at the end where we're going to discuss why this actually opens up the video. So, in this video series, we're going to be very specific. The second is on the theory of firm, and the contents that we're looking into are the following. First, markets and market structure. We'll be focusing on a bit of what do you mean by perfect competition as well as imperfect competition. In subsequent videos, we'll cover each of these competitions in detail. Now, let's come down to markets. Market as a structure is very interesting because it intends to bring in together two important people, that is the buyers as well as the sellers. They intend to go forward and sell a product at a price and at some quantity. Now, here, this is most important, an agreed price and quantity of goods which are bought and sold. Significantly, in economics, we are more specific about this idea of exchange and price. Why? Because for us, markets are those places where you create a framework where you identify the factors affecting demand, factors affecting supply, come down to a agreeable price, set that price across, and which we call as equilibrium price and quantity, and then work across. Now, the problem is that in economics and in commonsensical understanding, markets vary a lot. And that's the reason why in economics, when we talk about markets, we're talking about markets not with respect to a place, but with respect to the transaction. So, in very simple understanding, if you're studying commerce management or so on and so forth, they would always teach you markets to be a physical place. Like, for example, they ask you to associate it with a sabzi mandi or a sarafa bazaar or kapada bazaar or so on and so forth, where the geographical location, the physical location in specific matters a lot. But in economics, for us, it's an arrangement where the buyers and sellers are together. It is a contract that is identified with an economic exchange with respect to a price and a quantity. Now, let me draw out a very simple example. If we are going ahead and defining an idea that it's night, we are in Amazon, there is a there's a hunter, and there is a butcher. If hunter and butcher at 12 in the midnight are exchanging the hunting game with tools, which is happening in a forest in Amazon at night, for us, that's a transaction. That's a market setup that we're looking at. Why? Because in here, an exchange has happened. In here, there's an agreeable price and quantity. And therefore, markets can be classified and understood differently. For example, India is one of the thriving examples where we see, for the matter of fact, that place happens to be one of the easiest way of classification. There are local markets, there are melas in India which happens, there are festivals which are around those melas, and so on and so forth. There are regional markets, there are national markets, and there are international markets. Now, these markets are basically classified on the basis of geography. But we also have markets based on time. There are some markets which are there for a day, for a week, maximum a month, or a year, or some 2 3 years, or they are there till eternity. Now, significantly, we also have markets based on transactions, which you generally see in financial markets, the spot market, as well as the future market. Now, we can also define these markets based on the quantum of business they are doing or the volume of business that is as it is spoken of. So you can have the wholesale market as well as the retail market. Now, we've also classified these markets on the basis of money market, capital market, stock market, foreign exchange market, commodity market, which is largely the whole gamut of finance as well as commodities. In this video, we're going to focus only on one type of market, that is market based on degree of competition or market structure. Why market structure? Because the number of buyers and sellers, the type of products, the entry and exit are going to define what is going to be the nature of market. Thus, we identify them into two major halves: perfect competition and imperfect competition. In further videos, we're going to explore monopoly, monopolistic, and oligopoly as forms of imperfect competition. Now, let's take a 2 minutes break and actually understand our very own city of Bombay. Bombay earlier, or today, what we call as Mumbai. is one of those beautiful cities in the world which actually grew around various types of markets. You call this as the commercial capital, you call this as a financial capital. That means those two markets are already there. But I've taken up a very simple task to just let you know that there are X number of other markets too, like where the Southern Docks, which is actually the oldest dock in Bombay. You have the Dada's beautiful flower market. You have the very much exotic as well as very much sensorily beautiful Lal Bagh Spice Market. You have the Mirchi Gully, which actually provides you with every type of spice and condiment that you need. You have India's largest and one of the oldest markets ever, which is very bizarre. You have the Bhuleshwar and the Hind Mata markets, which you can use for your wedding shoppings or basically shopping, clothes shopping anytime. And then you have the Dharavi's Leather Street, which is known for its leather products. Uh, Chor Bazaar, or what it's called as Chor Bazaar, because that's at a point of time the Britishers could not take the noise, which was it was Shore Bazaar, and it went on to become Chor Bazaar, which is India's largest flea market for antiques and vintages. You have the Mahatma Jyotiba Phule Mandai, which is the Crawford Market, where you can get anything starting from your consumer durables to uh, electronics. We also have the Colaba Causeway, where you get ornaments, clothes, vintage goods. You have the Linking Road, you have the Lamington Road. Similarly, you have the Hill Road of Bandra, which is the Sarojini of Mumbai. You have the Bandra's Painaka, which is where you get everything starting from vegetables, pets, and everything. You have the Matunga East Market, which is there for fruits, flowers, and the Udupi joints, which are there. In Kalba Devi lanes and Musafir Khana, you get furniture and crockery items. Then you have the Manish market where you have the wholesale markets. You have the fashion street for clothes. You have the old street market for vintage furniture. You have the Natraj market for clothes, accessories, and footwear. You have the Kaputar Khana market, which is for Maharashtrian saris, utensils, and cosmetics. Then you have the MJ market, which is again for textiles. You have the CP Tank for bangles and imitation jewelry. You have the beautiful Kadagola Art Plaza pavement, which is filled with amazing artworks of some budding and amateur artists. You have the Flora Fountain, which is surrounded for all the book lovers. So, I mean, that's one of the beautiful places you can visit in Bombay. Anyone who is a geek, sorry, I'm using that word, but yeah, anyone who is interested in books can visit it. You have the Ganesh Galli in Lal Bagh, one of the most unique places in Bombay where people actually are, even selling idols during Ganpati, and because Ganesh Chaturthi being one of the biggest festivals in Maharashtra, Ganesh Galli actually is a very much entrepreneurial space. And you have the Lokanwala market, which is for anything that feeds or satisfies the needs of women folk in general. Now, if a city like Bombay has so many markets, please realize that how beautiful would be India and how many markets are there in each cities. I've just tried to be very specific with an idea that I just tried to mark out major spaces where we're aware of or we know of those markets. But actually speaking, markets are all around us. It's just that we need to see it because we are surrounded by them. Now, let's come back to economics. Now, as the title of this video, Theory of Firm, we intend to understand for the matter of fact that how do firms work? What is the nature in which they can be profitable? How do they define demand and supply? How do they use resources well? Now, the first instance where someone was actually talking about this was this gentleman whom you see on screen, Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall, in his book, The Principles of Economics, dedicates a chapter which is called as Theory of Value. In Theory of Value, he describes the way in which a firm needs to be profitable. Now, his theory was contested, debated, so on and so forth, and we have had other people working. Like the prominent works include John Robinson. John Robinson actually went forward to write on economics of imperfect competition, while you had the Edwin Chamberlain, who specifically wrote about the monopolistic competition, where his work is called as the theory of monopolistic competition. Now, as I said a while ago, that in this video we're going to focus only on the market structure of degree or competition. We intend to identify what are the factors which allow it to do so. So, first one, when we are trying to understand markets on the basis of market structure, the first important thing is the number of buyers and sellers. Now, why do we want to know that? We want to know that because we would like to understand what is the extent to which a firm in an industry or the industry in general is eventually going forward and facing their demand and supply. Who is defining the price, how they are defining, and so on and so forth. Because the number of buyers and sellers are going to decide who actually has the market power. Second, the type of products bought and sold. So there's a contestation in perfect competition and imperfect competition regarding homogeneous and non-homogeneous products. Now, what defines to be a homogeneous product? We identify homogeneous products by two major characteristics. One being physically similar, second being similar on respect with the environmental factors. Thus, by shape, size, it should be similar, but also with discounts, price, or so on and so forth. We also need to consider the fact that what is the nature of mobility of resources. Now, this is very important because if you're shifting from one firm to another in an industry, whether the factors can be moved or not. Similarly, we talk about degree of knowledge. How do we know about the market? What is the intention do we have with respect to the information about production, consumption, marketing, so on and so forth. Similarly, we also try to consider ease of entry and exit because it allows us to understand how we go forward to identify and discuss the importance of a firm entering a market and a firm leaving the market because that dictates the market in a larger way. So we define markets on the basis of the following basis. First, we're going to explore one complete world which is called as perfect competition. The second which we're going to explore would be imperfect competition. Now, in perfect competition, we do not have types, but in imperfect competition, we're going to start off with monopolistic, oligopoly, and monopoly. But there are few honorable mentions which we would like to do. That is monopsony, where there is single buyer and few sellers, or oligopsony, where there are few buyers and few or many sellers, or bilateral monopoly, where the market has only one single producer and one single buyer. Similarly, duopoly, there are two sellers and many buyers. Now, monopsony, oligopsony, bilateral monopoly, and duopoly are forms of imperfect competition only, but we're not going to take them in detail. What we're going to more focus upon is only monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Now, let me just make it a bit more technical while I'm talking about all four of them at the very beginning. If you intend to understand that whether a firm is a price taker or a price maker, we'll go forward and try to define them into two bases. That is either a price taker or a price searcher. If the firm is price taker directly, the firm will be in perfect competition. But then, if it is not a price taker, it's a price searcher. We try to understand for the matter of fact that how is it working, whether there are barriers to entry for a firm or not. If yes, and if no, there are two different markets. If yes, how many barriers are there and how many firms are involved? If no, then you are in monopolistic competition. Significantly, depending on the number of firms, whether it is one or few, we identify it as monopoly or oligopoly. Now, I know this is quite complex and quite problematic at the first instance, but let me just break it out. The flowchart logically allows you to understand, for the matter of fact, that how are firms technically classified? How do we go forward and give relevance to these four major types, and how do we understand them? Thus, if it is a price maker or a price taker, if whether there's a barrier to entry or exit, whether the number of firms in the market do go forward impact the market mechanism. Thus, to make it more simple, let me just give you a simple understanding that if you're talking about any market, you need to understand for the matter of fact that what is the nature of competition and what is the nature of concentration. So if you're moving from perfect competition to monopoly, you see the amount of concentration actually increasing towards monopoly as from few or large numbers you're going to single. But if you're talking about nature of competition, it is increasing from monopoly to perfect competition because from single seller we are going to many and large sellers. Now this is where I'm going to go forward and stop the technical explanations because we will explore each of these competitions in detail. First, perfect competition. Now, significantly speaking, one of the first instances where you get perfect competition is in Adam Smith's work, which is later on developed by Francis Edgeworth. However, it is Frank Knight's book which actually develops this concept in a far more extensive way. Now, there'll be many of you who would be like, okay, it's a market which is characterized by large number of buyers, same product, and firm is a price taker. That is there. But the whole point is, when we're talking about perfect competition, it's a market structure. It's a type of market structure where we see that the large number of buyers and large number of sellers selling similar product allows them to go forward and influence the market across accordingly, where no single firm has enough control. Now, John Robinson or let's say the Balding's definition, eventually tries to give you the very same understanding, but they just use the words separately or their perspectives are different. So, if you're talking about perfect competition, these are the following ways. First and foremost thing, we're talking about the large number of buyers and sellers. When we say there are a large number of buyers and sellers, no single person has a control. Thus, the firm is a price taker, not a price maker. Second point, we're talking about something what is called as homogeneity of a product. Homogeneity of a product basically means that the physical characteristics of the product as well as the environmental characteristics, meaning by shape, size, color, the product should be similar. Also, with respect to discounts, selling techniques, market promotion techniques, so on and so forth, there should be similarity. Thus, a product qualifies to be an homogeneous product if it completely categorizes these 2 points. What we also see here is, for the matter of fact, that there is free entry and exit of firms. There is a free entry at the point where the industry is eventually going forward and earning profits, and there is exit from the market where they start earning losses. Now, this is quite common for the firms to enter during profits, for the firms to leave the market when there are losses. And therefore, this is a type of market which is actually characterized by having normal profits throughout. Now, I'll just stop you here because these first three features, if they are visible in any market, we identify that market as pure competition. So, pure competition logically is a market structure which is quite similar to perfect competition, but it has only three characteristics as I explained a while ago. That is, large number of buyers and sellers, homogeneity of product, and free entry and exit of firms. Now, let's go ahead. So, if these three plus other features are there, that means the type of market that you're studying is perfect competition. Next, perfect knowledge of the market. We are very clear in this form of market that everyone knows everything. There is a clear clarity with respect to the number of buyers. There is clear clarity with respect to number of sellers. There is also a complete clarity with respect to how are we going forward and seeing the methods of selling the product or buying the product. So there is no hidden information. That does mean there is no hidden cost. Perfect mobility of the factors of production and goods. In perfect competition, we make it very clear that there will be a clear flow of goods from one firm to another. Now, thus allowing easy mobility of resources across. Absence of price control. In this, we very clearly assume that there are no direct price controls. So, does the price gets defined by the market and you accept that price. Perfect competition among buyers and sellers. There is no uneven competition here. We see, for the matter of fact, that there is a healthy competition, and because both the buyers as well as sellers are in large numbers, we intend to see a very healthy but a very perfect competition. Absence of transport cost. In this form of competition, we very clearly suggest that there is no transport cost. Similarly, for all the products, you get one price. As everyone is aware about the products, there is no additional cost. Everyone has all the idea about the product, so you cannot charge a different price. You'll be having one price for the product. Significantly, there is independent relationship between buyers and sellers in this form of market. Now, completing the perfect competition. Now let's come to imperfect. Imperfect, as the name suggests, is not perfect. And actually speaking, imperfect is a form of market that you see all around you. I would be lying if I'm saying this, but please understand. Perfect competition was the type of market which our thinkers tried to define at that time. So if you are trying to use the present sensibilities and trying to then butcher what perfect competition stood for, then it is unfair. They went forward to define perfect competition under a free market mechanism. Today, markets are different. Thus, we find ourselves correlating more with imperfect competition because the reality and the theory are quite similar. Like we do have monopolies today, we do have oligopolies today, we do have monopolistic markets that are all around us. And therefore, it would be completely wrong to dismiss perfect competition. Perfect competition allows us to actually value imperfect competition more. And I think that's a good point to start off. Like, as I said earlier, we will be focusing on three major types. First, monopoly. In this form of market, where you see a single seller selling the product who has no close substitutes or who doesn't go forward to have any issue because the firm itself is the industry. Monopolistic competition, where there are large number, I mean a comparatively fair number, where they are dealing in a differentiated goods, and which is pretty interesting. And then you have oligopoly, where you study it as collusive and non-collusive, where you have few sellers. And one of the most interesting things in this market is, for the matter of fact, that you sell both homogeneous and differentiated goods. Now, many a times while people talk about monopolistic competitions, they make it a point to say that monopolistic is a marriage between monopoly and perfect competition. Therefore, if you actually remember here, when we have gone forward to define, it is perfect competition at the extreme end, monopoly at the other extreme. And their middle child is nothing but monopolistic. So, monopolistic logically enjoys the good half of perfect competition as well as monopoly. And that's how it goes through. So, once again, now that we've done with it, now I think this flowchart would make more sense to you. Once again, let me just take a minute to revise it. When we are trying to understand markets on the basis of market structure, and if you go forward and visualize that who is a price taker or a price searcher, what we call as price maker. If it is a price taker, we technically are jumping into perfect competition. But if it is a price maker, we try to understand whether there are entries or not. If there are entries, how many firms are there? If there are no entries, then you are in monopolistic competition. If the number of firms are different, single firm, monopoly, few firms, oligopoly. This is a very simple way to logically understand the whole process. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an brief overview about all the four types of competitions so that you are able to correlate and make sense of why these four are similar but they are different. So, perfect competition is a space where you have a large number of buyers and large number of sellers. Monopolistic is fairly large numbers of buyers and sellers. Oligopoly is few sellers and large number of buyers. And monopoly is one seller and large number of buyers. In perfect competition, the nature of product is identical or homogeneous. Monopolistic, it is differentiated. Oligopoly is homogeneous as well as differentiated, while monopoly is identical but with no close substitutes in the market. Only in perfect competition there is perfect knowledge, so everyone knows everything, but in all the imperfect competition there is some knowledge. So there is some secrecy which allows them to actually enjoy the advantage with respect to price. On the basis of nature of entry and exit, perfect competition and monopolistic competition allow free entry and exit. Oligopoly can have free entry but can also have closed entry and exit. But in monopoly, there is closed entry owing to the fact that they intend to have control over the business. So it might be either legal monopoly or it might be either natural monopoly or so on and so forth. So the sources of monopoly are different. Thus, because of the sources and the types, we do not have open entry here. With respect to market power, monopoly enjoys the complete market power. Oligopoly enjoys significantly market power. Monopolistic enjoys slight market power. Well, in perfect competition, there is no market power as the buyers and sellers are in such a large number that no single entity can actually influence the market. Now, on the basis of that, if you look at the next point, firm's degree of control over price. Perfect competition will not have any control. Why? Because the firm is a price taker. But in monopolistic competition and in oligopoly, the firm is a price maker. So slight price control. But in monopoly, you're the single seller, complete control. So you are the price maker. Similarly, now let's talk about the demand. So how is your demand curve? In perfect competition, it is perfectly elastic. In monopolistic, it is more elastic. In oligopoly, it is kinged. So it is elastic and then inelastic. While in monopoly, it is less elastic. With respect to long run and the nature of profits that are earned in long run, we see for the matter of fact that perfect competition and monopolistic competition will earn normal profit. Oligopoly and monopoly will earn supernormal profit. With respect to selling cost is actually not there in perfect competition and as well as in monopoly, because in perfect competition everyone knows about the product, you know the buyer, you know the seller, you know the product, so you need not incur that cost. In monopoly, he or she is a single person who is selling the product, so why do you need to actually take the marketing cost? Now, you can advertise sometimes, but the advertisement cost when compared to oligopoly and monopolistic is not going to be similar. So monopoly will actually have a very less money spent there with respect to cost, as well as their methods of marketing would be very simple. But if you understand oligopoly and monopolistic, they have amazing selling costs. They have some amazing advertisements being done to get attention of the customers and make them acknowledge their product so that they can go forward and buy it. But with respect to something like perfect competition, you do not have any major stuff, because in this form of market you would be either doing a direct exchange or the auctions. Thus, we come to a bit of technical space. In perfect competition, we are suggesting for the matter of fact that the average revenue is equal to marginal revenue. But in monopolistic competition, in oligopoly and in monopoly, we don't say the same. In perfect competition, we are able to see such a relationship is owing to the fact that the average revenue, the marginal revenue, and the price is equal, as there is no change in the price of the product in perfect competition. We have one price for the commodity throughout. Thus, the average revenue, marginal revenue, and price are equal in perfect competition. But in imperfect competition, as there is a price as well as the non price competition, the cost would differ. Thus, we see for the matter of fact that average revenue is not equal to marginal revenue. And what we see is for the matter of fact that depending on markets, we see that average revenue is a downward sloping curve, and so is the marginal revenue. But marginal revenue falls at double the rate of average revenue. Now, we are talking about the examples where you can see such forms of competition in the market around us. Now, to be very specific, there is no example of perfect competition. But the closest that we can come to understand how perfect competition would work would be the financial markets and the agricultural products. When it comes to something like monopoly, government franchisees like postal services, electricity, water is monopoly. Or for the matter of fact, the South African company which controls the complete diamond trade in the world, De Beers, is a wonderful example of monopoly. When it comes to something like oligopoly, we're talking about those products which are homogeneous. So you can talk about cement, steel, and chemicals, or you can talk about industries which are like automobiles or software design, where the products are differentiated. In monopolistic, you can take ready-made garments, laptops, food products, or common use products like anything starting from your soap, toothpaste, pens, blades, and whatnot, as well as your electronics. Thus, this is a very simple way to actually understand the markets and work forward. Now, in the start of my video, I said, did you actually look at the first screen? Now, these are two examples of late where two movies from Kannada filmmaking industry, did some amazing work on the box office. As you can see, I just shared in one for photo, Kantara eventually going forward and earning 400 crores at the world box office. Everyone knows what KGF 1 and KGF 2 has done, clocking more than 1,200 crores on global box office. Now, India is a big movie making industry. India is the world's largest film producing industry. We have smaller industries like the Kannada industry here. We have Marathi, we have Bhojpuri, we have Telugu, we have Tamil. We have all such regional languages, including the East. You have the Assamese movie culture, you have the Bengali movie culture, everyone. These are industries. All these industries have small, small firms which actually are making some amazing work. Now, the question is, do the firms and industry are similar? Let's keep that for the next video, because there is a very clear as well as clean linkage between the performance of a firm and its reflection on the industry. Now, please understand, Kantara clocking more than 400 crores or KGF clocking more than 1,200 crores on box office have done wonderful for their industry. But is it similar for everything? Let's keep that question for the next one. Thank you so much, and I hope you had a good time. Sayonara.